Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of the ACS Universe Podcast. I am, of course, ACS, and I'm finally doing it. Been talking about it, been making plans to do it for quite some time, and I got to give credit for the first person who suggested a podcast to me, Jonathan Nelson. Suggested it to me like it's been about a year ago, I guess, and I was like, I'm not with a podcast. My YouTube channel was going strong. I was loving the visual connection that I have with fans that comes with the YouTube channel. And so I was just like really, really not into doing a podcast. However, things change. Over the past 6 months, I've been listening to a few podcasts. And most notably, the Faruqi Brothers podcast, dudes from comicbookdebate.com. You should go check them out. They're on iTunes and YouTube and all of that stuff. They're in all the spots. But yeah, so I started listening to some podcasts, and I thought, this might be a good way to like stretch the ACS Universe brand. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I feel I'm still surprised every day. I got a little bit over 1,000 YouTube followers who follow my YouTube channel. I still am surprised about it. It's not that many, but it still makes me smile every time I look at it. And so I thought, what better way to stretch it? Give my fans, people who like to listen to me talk about this geeky stuff, give them another medium to listen to me. And honestly, look, if you like listening, you can't watch one of my YouTube videos like in your car. I wouldn't recommend that. That's extremely dangerous, but that's what a podcast is. It's portable. It's listen to it while you wash the dishes, listen to it while you drive, listen to it while you work out. If that's the thing you like to do, 99.9% of the time in my car, I'm listening to the other huge reason why I decided to do a podcast. And that was ESPN Radio. I am a huge fan of ESPN Radio. Love it, love it, love it. And so I'm listening to ESPN Radio most of the time in the car, and I just thought about a lot of times the connection that I have with the shows that I listen to, Levitard, Will Kane, Spain and Fitz, like those shows. And so there's something different. There's a different type of connection that's different from the visual one that you get with like a YouTube channel or being on television. Over the radio is because you can listen. It's so much more easily accessible than videos are. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to stop doing my videos. You still going to catch my reactions out there. You still going to catch all of that stuff. You still going to catch it, but I'll be able to communicate with my fans more often than the YouTube videos. Cause I mean, let's be honest, some things I started a new job last year, which cut my YouTube time in half just because it's not just jumping on camera and talking about some stuff or reacting to stuff. I mean, if you do YouTube videos, you know that the hardest part is editing. So first off, you got to get in there, make sure your lighting and all of that stuff's good. Get in there, film your reaction or whatever your video is, and then you got to go edit it, which could take anywhere from. It's the hardest part of the process. So that's what I'm saying. With this thing, it's just a tad bit easier, but if I hop up in the morning and feel like, jumping on here and talking about some stuff, I can do that. You know what I'm saying? And it's simpler than the videos. I'm not going to stop doing the videos, but this is just another way to push the ACS universe farther. Maybe the title of this thing will change. I don't know. Because I was originally not looking to call this the ACS Universe Podcast. I don't want both my mediums to have the same name, but it's kind of hard to think of a good name. And I'm gonna be talking about the same stuff that my YouTube channel talks about. As far as I'll probably get more in depth on here just because it's a better tool to get in depth than the videos are. And so originally though, I was going to call this thing the Off the Top of the Head Podcast. Reason being is because when I start talking about stuff that I love, I have a tendency to ramble on. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like that. When you start talking about something you're passionate about, you tend to ramble on about it. And so I'll start on a subject, and then I'll veer off and branch off into another subject. Now, eventually, I'll get back to the original subject. I just might hit 2 or 3 more subjects before I get back to the original subject. And so that's why, because this podcast is going to be all over the place. Y'all just bear with me. It is. I'm going to be talking about something, and I'm going to shoot off into something else. And part of the reason for that is because I try to keep notes to a minimum on here, because I just wanted this to be a place where I could just stick a microphone in my face and just talk. And just, you know, like I said, give you guys something. If if you know what I'm saying, you about to wash clothes, fold some clothes. Oh, ACS just dropped a new podcast. Let me listen to that. I don't have to be watching the screen while it's going on. And so yeah, those are the main reasons for me jumping to do a podcast. I gotta give some shouts, man. Just basically for what this very first episode is mainly going to focus around, and that's obviously this season premiere of Game of Thrones. But I've been chit-chatting with some folks. My boy PJ's my best friend. You know, obviously and to be honest, he just recently got caught up on it. I think he tried several times to make it through the first season and never could. And so he finally pushed down and got through the first season and got all the way caught up to the point where he was able to watch. And I'm heartbroken that we weren't able to watch it together, but there were reasons for that. Understandable reasons, but he finally got caught up to where he could watch season 8's season premiere, and he was totally caught up. And I was super happy about that, just because that gives me somebody to talk to face to face. Because I'm gonna tell you, most of the fans of Game of Thrones that I'm in contact with, they don't live anywhere near me. They actually, our conversations got started because they saw my YouTube channel, some Game of Thrones content, and then so they follow me on social media, which I invite you to do, on Instagram and Twitter at 2279ACS. Facebook, I don't really get on there that much, but you know, just search my name, Anthony Sherfield, on Facebook, and you can probably find me. But that's more most of my conversations get held is with people who found me through my YouTube channel. And so Eva, obviously, just my favorite witch, Age of the Witch, she Game of Thrones super fan. We've been talking about Game of Thrones, me and her, so I can't even remember, like, it hasn't been long, but it's really been long. Like the amount of time that we've been talking about this epic show, this epic series. Matter of fact, look, I call it the greatest series in the history of series because I want to really like because if you call it the greatest TV show in the history of TV, there's streaming services, shows, there's Netflix, there's all these other types of shows, types of series that I want you to know when I say Game of Thrones is the best, that it's the best out of everything I've ever seen in my entire life. And so that's why I call it a series. But anyway, back to, yeah, Eva, she is one of the greatest Game of Thrones fans I've ever met. And she loves the show just as much as everybody who's probably listening to this loves the show. And so I had to give her a shout because we've had some conversation throughout the week. And Danielle's I think she found me through my YouTube channel. I have to think she did. And so she followed me on Instagram, Twitter, and we have conversations every now and again. And she's a big fan of Game of Thrones, just as I am. And she's also into the other stuff, man. The comic book movies and things of that nature. So yeah, we've had conversations too, leading throughout the week as far as fans, as far as talking about, you know, our reactions to the very first episode of this season. And so that's it. My first podcast. The subject, Game of Thrones, season 8, episode 1. I'm going to go ahead and give you my ranking of the season before I even start talking about it too much. I gave it an 8 out of 10. And so obviously I didn't think it was perfect or would have got a 10 out of 10. I'll talk about those reasons later. But first, I'm going to start off with the intro. Man, oh man. That intro, I expected it to be different because Game of Thrones has done a terrific job over the course of the series. And that's why this is the best intro in the history of series, is because it changes the geography and everything just changes according to what's going on currently happening in the series and what's going to happen in that very episode. And so the way it started, it just came, I don't know what those spinning things are called. I just call them glyphs. If you know the name of them, post in the comments or something and let me know. But Yeah, so the spinning things and they looked a little different, and then it went straight to the wall, and I was like, oh man, they are doing it big, right? And so the entire thing, the ground changing, so you can see the path of the White Walkers, them passing, last Hearth, and then on making their way to Winterfell. The intro is one of the greatest parts of the show. Whenever I talk about it, if you've heard me talk about how much I love this series, I always mention the intro because it is such it's such an integral part of this show and its popularity. You know what I'm saying? I always used to say, if you skip the intro, I knew some people, man, they used to if you skip the intro when you're watching Game of Thrones, you're not a Game of Thrones fan. I mean, I'm just saying, if you skip the intro, and if you are a real Game of Thrones fans, you know that to be 100% truth right there, right? Like that's like that's like one of those unwritten laws. You do not skip the intro. Also in the intro, also there's one of those glyphs. I'm gonna call them glyphs until somebody can like tell me what they're legitimately called. The things that look like a leather band. One of them towards the end had showed the dragons chasing the comet. Now, I mean, that was interesting to me because I remember the comet from the early, I think it was season 1. I hadn't seen anything about the comet since then, but the dragons were chasing the comet. And the other glyph it showed, and look, I legitimately paused it. Me and my wife looked at it for probably 30 minutes on like a bigger screen TV I have in my living room. And we could not, it looks like the Night King holding a head. I think it might be a ram's head. I don't know what's going on there, but obviously since they showed that, it has some type of significance with this final season. And yeah, so that's what I thought about the intro. Intro was great. The episode opens up. It's very reminiscent of the very first episode of Game of Thrones when King Robert Baratheon, was coming to Winterfell with Cersei and the family, and you saw Arya dodging around, you saw Bran climbing, trying to get some better looks, and they did something similar at the beginning. I like that. I was in all of that. They showed everybody, Jon, the Hound, Gendry all passing by Arya, not noticing her sitting there because she's looking like some common folk, to be quite honest. I have to be honest about that. But so the beginning of the episode was good. He came up, he reunited with Bran, the Winterfell, the people of Winterfell, the people of the North were actually able to see the dragons. Kind of scared the shit out of them for a second, but they saw the dragons and they did all that. Jon reunited with Bran. Bran was weird as fuck. Hey, and I might have to tell you, man, the memes out there about Bran, shit has me rolling on a daily basis. I'm talking about, them things are straight hilarious. It's so funny. And he is creepy, man. Creepy is, really creepy. But he was creepy last season, and so they just brought it to a next level. It's not bothering me that he's that creepy. It's just kind of like, damn. Bran creepy as fuck, bro. But, yeah, so, I also liked in episode 2, what they've been doing the past season or so is cleaning up the other storylines so that all the storylines just streamline into the one main storyline, which is the Night King is on his way to motherfucking Winterfell. And so it's like Theon saving Ura. I thought that was great. I love seeing it. I was very happy that he fucking redeemed himself. And I love at the end of the little scene, she's like, you want to go to Winterfell, fight with the Starks? And he's like, hell yeah, I want to go fight with my homies. And so I like that, but it was very fast, very, very, very kind of rushed, I want to say, but that was a way to clean that up, right? That was a way to clean that storyline up. Just like when Littlefinger died at the end of last season. Clean that up. Go ahead and clean Littlefinger's story up so we can focus on the real story. And that's what they've been doing, I feel, in the last episode or last season or so, and they're doing a good job of it because now the focus is here. Now, John Bradley, if you don't know who that is, that's the actor who plays Samuel Tarly. Performance of the episode. I mean, he was great, and I actually think that he is going to turn. Well, he's not. I don't think he is turning the fact that his dad and his brother got smoked by Daenerys. Dracarys. he's turning that into a bigger deal than I actually thought it was gonna be. I mean, I thought he might get upset about it, but they treated him like shit, right? You know what I'm saying? So I figured he'd find out and be like, well, he should have did what she wanted. You know, I didn't think, but now it's kind of going to be a bigger deal than that. And I think maybe it might show itself later on this season. But yeah, his performance was fucking spot on. I mean, just a great performance. The symbol at the end, that was one of the more creepier scenes. That kid screaming, you know, I would probably remember that until the fucking day I die. You know what I'm saying? But that symbol, there it is again. The same one around the tree when it showed the episode where the children of the forest created the White Walkers, and you know, the bodies in the snow. It keeps re-showing itself. People are saying it looks like the Targaryen symbol. It does, but I don't think they will make it that simple. You know what I'm saying? The showrunners are some smart dudes to me, and I just don't see them making it that simple. It could be. I could be wrong. I just don't see that being a Targaryen symbol. And so another thing is, I wanted to get this podcast out before the season premiere, only because I wanted to say what I thought was going to happen. Just for the first episode, what my expectations were, and I really didn't have expectations, so to speak, just what I thought might happen. And it turned out pretty much how I thought, that it was going to be pretty positive, right? I thought it was going to be like a pretty positive episode up until the end. And when I say that, true Game of Thrones fans, if you've been in this thing for seasons and seasons, have had to take all the waiting between during the first 4 or 5 seasons, we got treated like shit. Us and the characters that we love so much. Now, every now and again, they sprinkle a cheer-worthy moment on you, right? For example, Joffrey dying. But for the most part, we've struggled through these seasons, right? Because it's been nothing but bad shit happening. And so when I say I felt this would be positive, it's because the last 2 seasons, we've had a lot of positivity. Now, I'm not going to say that it hadn't been all 100% good, but there have been lots of moments where you could stand up and applaud, because it just wasn't like that in the first 4 or 5 seasons. But it's been more of a positive vibe. And if you're a really, really big fan like I am, then you understand what I'm talking about. The past 2 seasons, we've had a lot of moments where you can cheer. Littlefinger dying. I mean, Battle of the Bat Ram. I mean, you had those moments that you just didn't get within the first 4 or 5 seasons. And so I felt that would carry over into the first episode of season 8, and it did. For the most part, it seemed, it had a more positive vibe. Now, remember I told you at the beginning that I gave it 8 out of 10. All right. So here's the main thing that pulled me from that episode was the green screen and the CGI. Now, this is a series. It's not a movie. However, how motherfucking ever, Game of Thrones has raised the expectations. You understand what I'm saying? Battle of the Bastards, I can't find a fake place on it. It looks terrific from start to fucking finish. And so does Beyond the Wall. All of these episodes, all of this stuff if you've been with it since the beginning, you could tell how every season, you could tell the budget was raised, and you could tell that everything improves up until now, where these episodes are like small movies. You know what I'm saying? And so they've had 2 years. I understand they had been done filming for 2 years, but they've had quite some time to perfect this stuff. The scene where Daenerys and Jon are walking up to the dragons, before the ride, it looks fake to me. Like the green screen, it does not look as good. Like, look, I'm gonna go back to Battle of the Bastards at the beginning, when Daenerys is flying over Slaver's Bay, about to straight murk the master's ships. That looks great. It looks terrific. It looks 100 times better than when her and John in this. And this is, I feel as though like the special effects should never go back, but they do. And so hopefully it gets cleaned up. And to me, the dragons, a lot of people complaining about the dragons, the CG on the dragons. That's not that bad to me. It's just the green screen, man. It's so when they're flying around on the dragons, it's I don't know. It's not as good as what I've come to expect from Game of Thrones. And speaking on that scene, this is what me and my boy PJ was talking about. While the scene, it made me laugh. I laughed real wholeheartedly. If you watch my reaction to the episode, I was fucking rolling off of that shit. It somewhat had no place in this episode. Especially not after Bran just straight weirdly, but he still did it nonetheless, warned you the Night King has your dragon and he is on his way here. Let's take a dragon ride. Now, I come to expect a level of love from the show, but that seemed a little bit too romantic to me too. Like once they landed, I'm like, the Game of Thrones ain't about no romance, right? All in all, it's not a bad scene. I just don't like its placement, and I feel like there's a sense of urgency there is a sense of urgency that everybody there should have that I feel like nobody has right now, and they're not going to have it until Tormund shows up in the next episode and tells them, hey, man, motherfucking Night King, hey, he right up the street, bro. And so that scene, it doesn't make sense with what they have coming for them. Me and what was we talking about? Me and Daniel, we talking about Bronn and what we think he's gonna do. Look, man, Bronn if he puts an arrow through either one of them two brothers, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. I know he's always talking about he's out for himself, but them your boys. So he better meet. I don't know why. And as soon as it happened, that scene in the show, I started thinking a vision hit my mind. And I know this is not going to happen by any fucking stretch of the imagination. Of Cersei standing somewhere, sipping her wine with that fucking smirk on her face, and an arrow hits her in her fucking stomach. And she looks down and she's like, oh, drops the glass of wine, and she looks up and it's Tyrion with that same crossbow that they gave to Bronn to murk him with. Next thing I know, she gets hit with another arrow. Bam! Right in the titty or somewhere like that. And she's like, oh, what the fuck? And she looks up and it's Jaime with another crossbow. Put an arrow in that ass. And then they both throw a couple more arrows in her just so she could see both of them take her ass out. Maybe that's just a fantasy. I don't know. That's not going to happen. But that when I first saw him he handed Bronn that fucking crossbow and told him what Cersei wanted him to do. For some reason that vision immediately hit my head. And so yeah, that's about it, man. That's my thoughts. I'm sure I missed some stuff. But a lot of people felt like, look, when you say the episode is rushed, it felt kind of rushed. I agree. However, I've gotten a tad bit used to that just because the last season and a half has been rushed, right? Like everything, I feel like it was one of the things where the show creators were like, look, this is how many episodes we're going to do. And then later on, they were like, wait a minute. We need to tell this much story in this many episodes. Basically like, trying to fit 2 hands worth of jelly beans into one hand. And so that's why everything's rushed. Now, I've gotten used to it by now because it has been. The last season and a half has been extremely rushed. But, and this episode was too. But like I said, they were trying to clean up some storylines, I feel like. And so they had to do it that way. Yes, the reunion between Jon and Arya was super reminiscent of the first, of earlier in the series. I loved it. I like how Jon got surprised that Arya was so much on Sansa's side. And you know what? When I'm talking about Sansa for a minute, I used to hate that bitch. Like, when you come into this series from the earlier episodes, Sansa was a bitch. And so, she was. And she treated her sisters like crap. She treated the help like crap. And so I've grown even through the stuff she went through. I was still like, Sansa's all right. But after last season and after this episode, Sansa's one of my favorite characters in the show. It's hard for me to deny that. She is amazing. And so, like, I don't want Sansa to die. You know what I'm saying? Like, at first I wouldn't have cared if she died, you know what I'm saying? But now it's like, she's came up. And when Arya said she's the smartest person she knew, I thought for a second, because, you know, I've watched that episode probably since Sunday night, the premiere, I've probably watched it 20 times. I don't know if that makes me weird or strange or anything, but I've watched it several times. But anyway, after that, I said, you know what, she is. And then after she tells that shit to Tyrion, I thought, you know, I once thought you were one of the smartest dudes on this. I'm like, yeah, she done figured it out. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Jaime's going to get there and he's going to tell him that stare at the end, man. It's way more significant. I don't know. It's just the very first episode of this series ended with Jaime and Bran. And then this episode ended with Jaime and Bran. So, you know what? I'm also curious to see if they're going to throw a lot more of those first season to last season, like similarities in the episodes. I'm going to be looking for those. But, look, man, it's been a pleasure. This thing has been a pleasure. I don't know how long I've been talking. I haven't looked at my computer screen recording it. I try to keep my eye on it at the corner because if I get too loud, it like turns red or whatever. You know what I'm talking about if you ever recorded a podcast before. But, hey, if you guys enjoy this podcast, please let me know. Please post in the comments and say, look, man, I enjoyed the podcast. You need to do more. And I will, man. Obviously, like I said, I'm not done with YouTube at all. You're still going to be seeing all my reactions and things of that nature on here. And as I'm starting this podcast, I'm going to try to at least put one out per week. So I guarantee you next week there will be another podcast where I will recap Season 8, Episode 2. And where I talk about Avengers Endgame. Got my tickets for 6 o'clock next Thursday. And so probably Friday or Saturday, I will be dropping on you what I thought about it. And so, yeah, but look, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at 2279ACS. It has been a pleasure to talk to you guys. I mean, this is great. You don't have to worry about lighting, camera angles. You know, I mean, I can do this in my underwear if I so feel like it, right? I'm not in my underwear right now, but if I so choose to do so, I could, and it'd still be a great podcast. Yeah, but so until next week, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I have enjoyed talking to you guys. This is, you know what this is? This is me leaving you guys like a super long like voicemail because hopefully in the future I'll get to a point where I can interact with people. Excuse me, while I'm on this podcast, maybe have like do it live one day, you know, and I will be videoing a couple of podcasts. I just always thought of a podcast as like radio, you know what I'm saying? And so that's why I'm not going to video all of them, but yeah. So, hey, if you liked it, let me know you liked it. Let me know what you liked about it. Post in the comments on you know, what you thought about some of the things I talked about throughout the episode. I'll see you guys next week. ACS Universe Podcast out.